السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Um, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ما بعد. السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. So tonight, inshallah, we're going to finish this last section from the end of Al-Aqidah al-Wasitiyya by Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. And this is the section of adab where he described and discussed the adab of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And he says here, of course, every time he says they, he's referring to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. فقال رحمه الله وينهون عن الفخر والخيلاء والبغي والاستطالة على الخلق بحق أو بغير حق. He said that they prohibit one another, they prevent one another from 4 things. Al-fakhr. They prevent one another from al-fakhr, which is to be prideful, or I guess it could be translated as prideful. But the description, the example will make it a little, hopefully it'll be clear with the example. طيب, al-fakhr, it's almost like, it's 2 types, number 1. So it could be one that's good and one that's not good. You know, sometimes we say we take pride in doing something, right? When you take pride in doing something, that's not necessarily negative, right? Because that pretty much means when you do it, you try to do it right to the best of your ability. We're not talking about taking pride in doing something like that. But taking pride in, as he says in the example, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah, said a person is prideful over somebody else, biqawlihi, with his statement when he says, ana alim, like I'm knowledgeable. There's no benefit in mentioning that, right? Or I'm rich, I have money. That a person brags about something that they have that another person might not have, right? The Ahl Sunnah, they advise each other not to do that we don't do that. We don't just go around, if we could say, brag or boasting about something that we have that somebody else doesn't have, right? He says, ana shuja', I'm a person of courage. I ain't scared, as we say, all right? That a person goes around doing that without a reason to do it. Because there are times, as Shaykh Uthaymeen mentioned, that it's possible that it might be a need to do it. Sometimes it's a need to mention your own quality that you have that somebody else doesn't have, right? Sometimes there's a need for that. And then there are times when there's no need for that, right? And the fact that in that time when there's no need for it, when we do that, it's almost like we are belittling the other person, right? In the time where there's no need for it. But in the time where it's needed, then this is not a problem. Clear? So there's a time when there's a need for it, and there's a time when there's not a need for it. Right? Sometimes that word is used to, again, like, to say we take pride in something, right? But it can also be something that's negative. So Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah here is talking about the negative side, not the positive side. Not the side that we say we take pride in taking care of your family, you take pride in doing whatever job you do it and you do it right. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the other side where a person mentions something about themselves where it's almost belittling the other person in that case by mentioning it, unless there's a specific reason, there's a need to mention it, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, he says that we also, Ahl Sunnah, also, yanhona an al-khuyala, that they prevent and they advise each other against being arrogant. They say haughty sometimes, right? To being arrogant, right? He says, al-khuyala takunu bil-af'al. And arrogance can be done with actions too, with actions, right? He says maybe in a person the way they walk, right? People walk arrogantly, right? Yeah, people walk with a type of, what we call it? Stroll might not be arrogant. Stroll might be, is a stroll arrogant? It's possible. All right. Depends on how hard you're strolling. With your chest out. But yeah, it can be. It can be in the walk. It can be in the walk. It says, وَفِي وَجْهِهِ, or in a person's face. That a person has an arrogant look on their face. Right? An arrogant look. What does an arrogant look like? Stuck up. The person turning their nose up at people. Right? People do that sometimes if they go places and the place that they go to is not to their standards. Right? Even if they're not paying for it, that's the problem. Somebody, for example, somebody invites you somewhere and they're paying for whatever the thing is, it's an invite. So you're going, as we say, on their ticket. You're not paying anything. And then the person goes in there, and because it's not to your standards how you would have spent the money, it's not a place you would have chosen to invite somebody. A person goes in there and they do that, they turn their face up and they look around like, you brought me here? Like we could have, you know what I'm saying? Right? He said it could be in a person's face. They might not say it, but imagine a person who invited them there and they see that look on somebody's face.
Is that always a bad thing?
Is what always a bad thing?
You go somewhere and you like, you brought me here, you know I'm not, it's not my crowd, I don't...
No, that's different. We talking about, let's just say, for example, we talking about a person invites you to dinner. Right? Yeah, somebody, you like, or somebody tells you it's a surprise. Somebody tells you it's a surprise. Just meet me at such and such. Wow, I mean, they take you to dinner. They take you to dinner. They're paying for everything, or lunch, whatever it is, right? It's nowhere, I'm with you, nowhere haram. They're not taking you somewhere that's out of your, you know what I'm saying? They take you somewhere, invite you to dinner. They take you where they can, according to what they can afford, right? They say it's the thought that counts, right? It's the thought that counts. It's not about what you would have spent, where you would have took them. That's what you would have did, but you didn't. You didn't take them, they're taking you. So they take you where they take you. And then a person turns around, they look at the look on the person's face, and they got their face turned up like, let alone if they start criticizing the place, right? Allah understand. Allah forgive us. That's not good adab. That's not good manners from the Muslim, for the Muslim, right? Yeah, you might not have went there. So what do you do in a case like that? As the person who's been invited. No. Not the host. You get there and it's not really to your standards. You just take it. You can do what? You're going to leave? Politely excuse yourself. Like, I got to go? Yeah, you should show some type of appreciation, right? Do something. Right? Yeah, it's only one time thing. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to totally leave.
Just eat from the food that you like, right?
Try to get something maybe that chicken fingers. You can't go wrong with chicken fingers.
So for example, say it's like a 6-hour function, right?
Yeah.
I leave 3 hours in because I'm not feeling it.
That's cool.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
No, but we only going to dinner. All right, but even if it's a long function, I get you. Even if it's a long function, right? Even if it's a long function, it's a way to politely participate without showing your displeasure for the place or for whatever situation. It's a way to do it, right?
You can act as is. You act like
Yeah, you could act like it's all, like it's all good, like it's nothing, like it's no problem, right? But what we don't want is the person who invited us somewhere to turn around and see a look of disgust on our face. That's the problem. So we don't want it to look like, because now that leads to something else, and that could lead to a bunch of other things. Tayyib. He says also, arrogance can be shown if you rafi ratsihi, a person raising their heads, walking around. They got their heads, as we say, in the sky. Right? Now, in our terms, and this is what he says. He says, كَأَنَّهُ وَصَلَ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ, as if a person has reached the sky. Right? In our terms, we say it's two types for us. It's two types of keeping your head up. Right? Y'all with me? It's a positive meaning, and then it's a negative meaning. Right? We're talking about the negative meaning. We advise each other not to walk around like you are better than everybody. We're not talking, like you on your high horse. We're not talking about keeping your head high and having confidence in yourself, having confidence in what you do. We're not talking about having confidence like we're not confident people as Muslims. We're talking about the person who got their head in the sky as if they're better than everybody and they're looking down on everybody when they walk around, right? And some people literally walk around like that. Like physically, you can see their head and they looking around at people and looking down at people and they got their faces turned up, right? And that's not from the adab of the Muslim. Just in case we don't know. And these manners, this adab, it relates for the men and the women. It's for the men and the women. This is not just all of the Muslim men supposed to do this, but the Muslim women, they don't have to apply these things. Because we know when it comes to females, it can get a little more intense, right? It can get a little more intense. So that's the third thing. And then he mentioned the ayah in Surah Al-Isra, where Allah said, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا, and do not walk, and this is verse 36. Surah Al-Isra is Surah 17. Surah 17, verse 37, I'm sorry. Can somebody double check that real quick? Isra 37. وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا, Allah said. Marahan. And do not walk in the earth, do not walk around. I want to see the word they translated. Anybody got it?
Is it 36?
Yeah. 37, I'm sorry.
Do not walk upon the earth.
Anybody else got it?
Indeed, you will not tear the earth apart, and you will neither reach the mountain in height.
What did he say?
Do not walk on the earth. Excellently. Exaltedly.
You see?
Indeed, you will never tear the earth apart. You will never reach the mountain in height.
37, right?
Good.
And walk out on the earth with conceit or arrogance. Which one are you looking at? Do not walk on the earth with conceit and arrogance. In that verse. Who? I don't know if I know exudely. Arrogant. Do not. I don't know. I'll tell you. That's Isra, verse 37. Do not walk on the earth, as it says, with conceit and arrogance. That's by the ayah, the verse in the Quran itself. Not that we don't walk around with confidence, but there's a difference in a confident walk and an arrogant walk. All right? It's a difference. Tayyib.
What the rest of the ayah?
It says after that, إنك لن تخرق الأرض ولن تبلغ الجبال طولا. They translate it as you don't have the ability to You wouldn't be able to crack the ground. You don't have that. You're not like somebody who's, I don't want to, it doesn't say that. I'll read what it says first. Do not walk on the earth with conceit and arrogance. Verily, you can neither rend nor penetrate the earth, nor can you attain a stature like the mountains in height. And there's a couple of different translations for that. Your strength doesn't allow you to penetrate and crack the earth yourself. You're not that strong. You're not really that who a person may think they are. You're not as big as you think you are. You're not that, right? Don't walk around as if you are that, because, of course, the other verses prove that we are all created from the same thing. We're going back to the same dirt. Alhamdulillah. طيب Shaykh Uthaymeen رحمه الله says فأهل السنة والجماعة ينهون عن هذا ويقولون كن متواضعا في القول والفعل وفي الفعل حتى في القول لا تثني على نفسك بصفاتك الحميدة. He said أهل السنة, the people of Sunnah, أهل السنة والجماعة, they advise each other to stay away from all those negative characteristics, and they say كن متواضعا, they say to each other, be humble. Not the internet humble. What does it mean to be humble? Because I saw somebody with a shirt on said be humble, I think. What is humble and humility? Huh? To be at peace. To have good manners. Okay. Not thinking. Not considering yourself better than somebody else. Jade. Anybody else? Be humble. Not considering yourself better than the next person. Is it possible you're better than the next person now? You might be better than the next person. But the fact that you're better than the next person, does that mean that you have to make it clear that you're better than the next person? No. That's humility, humbleness, to be humble. He says, and this is what Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah advise each other with. Be humble. Don't be a person who you think you're better than everybody else. Even though you might be better than the people that are sitting in front of you, or better than people that are sitting next to you, better than people that's around you. Right? And then he says, whether it's in the statement, be humble in what you say, and be humble in behavior, in your actions. Right? What does it mean to be humble in what you say? Guarding your tongue. Don't brag. Okay, not bragging about something that you might have and somebody else doesn't have. Tayyib. What else? Not using profanity. Jade. Some people think profanity is like no problem. Some Muslims don't understand the problem with profanity. But I guess that's a whole nother discussion. Muslims don't understand the problem with profanity. And I'm not saying that's for the men and the women. For the men and the women. We don't understand the problem with profanity. We wouldn't go in front of certain people and use profanity. Let alone we'll curse out a Muslim or anybody for that matter. Salam alaikum. That's an issue we need to deal with, especially, and it's not with the exception, but especially when we have the look, when you look like a Muslim. Like you have the sifat, you have the description. Anybody, at least where we are, and this, anybody walking around is going to identify you as a Muslim. That's a problem. And we don't understand the problem with profanity as Muslims. That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. Tayyib. He says here, being humble or having humility in things we say, he said that you do not mention your own good qualities to other people. Right? That you do not mention your own good qualities to other people. Do people do that? Yeah. When do people do that? Just in general talk? Just general talk. I memorized this, I know this, now it's possible that at the time it's a need to mention that. It's possible it's a time to mention it, right? Like when? When is it possible it's a time that it's a need to mention some of your good qualities? When somebody asks you, mashallah. Mashallah. At a sit down. Huh?
Appropriate conversation, y'all conversating about that topic.
It's a conversation, somebody asks you, and it's a need to mention it on that topic. or sit down, because this going to lead to the next joint. All right? So at the sit down, you got to pull out what? All your good qualities about yourself. You got a whole list of stuff, right? طيب. طيب. He says right after that, except, he says, إلا حيث دعت الضرورة أو الحاجة إلى ذلك, except if it's a need to mention your good qualities. It might be a need to mention. It might be a need for a person to mention that whatever they feel is a positive quality about themselves, right? Like the examples that we did that y'all just mentioned. طيب. He mentioned the example of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu when he said, لو أعلم أحدا هو أعلم مني بكتاب الله تبلغه الإبل لركبت إليه. He said that if there was a person that I knew, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, if it was a person that I knew that was more knowledgeable than me, than the Quran and the Sunnah, I would got on my camel and I went to learn from him. I'm not trying to say, I'm just saying, if it was somebody I knew was more knowledgeable than me, I would have went to go learn from him, right? It's possible it's a need. It's possible it's a need. طيب. This is important. He says, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah says, والإنسان ذو الصفات الحميدة لا يظن أن الناس تخفى عليهم خصاله أبدا سواء ذكرها للناس أم لم يذكرها. He said a person who does have good qualities and characteristics, a person with good, is that the word? Qualities? Man or woman. He said, don't think that people don't recognize those qualities. Don't think that people don't recognize those good qualities, whether you mention them or you don't mention them. And this is important for sisters, because sometimes sisters face a fitna. Sisters face the fitna as far as hijab, covering. So some think that hijab, they think covering properly, that's the shaitan. They think that covering properly is keeping them from a potential spouse, a husband. It's a deception, it's a trick of the shaitan. They think that by them covering properly, they're covering everything so they're not able to get the attention of a man. Right? Therefore, what? You have to do what to get the attention of a man? If you thinking like that, then I got to do one or two things. The extreme of it is I have to remove the hijab so that they can get the attention. Right? Everybody with me? Sisters, if I'm wrong, stop me. I could be wrong. Right? That's the extreme, that they remove the hijab. Less than the extreme is that the overgarment and hijab becomes smaller and smaller and smaller so that the body is defined. So now we can see all of the curves. Right? Because they think, a person thinks, because nobody says anything about the good qualities that I have, that I must not have good qualities, which is a mistake. Whether, as the Shaykh Uthaymeen says, whether a person with good qualities should never think that people don't see him. They'll never think that people don't know the qualities that everybody's walking around. Everybody walking around has a certain demeanor that they carry themselves with. And everybody walking around that goes and deals with that person picks up on it. Whether we say something about it or not. Now sometimes we just come out and say it, like, mashallah, man, you are such and such. And then we say what it is. But even if we didn't say it, it's still, that person still is like that, whether we say it or not. So he said that don't think that because you don't say anything, that quality, that trait of you being humble, for example, you being a wholesome sister, right? Because people don't say it, don't think that people don't notice it. And that's important because a lot of people need to hear it. A lot of people need to hear the compliment. All right, some people don't need to hear it, but a lot of people need to hear the compliment. Yes, Sheikh.
The beauty of the sister, she had a niqab, she's totally covered. It's like I could
goosebumps when I see her.
Allah Akbar.
When she like, nah, when she ain't covered, I don't get that.
Right.
Her beauty already been shown. Some names of people.
And that's important too. Some people, you got to understand, the beauty, as they say, is in the eyes of the beholder. So some people, sister, there's some people, they're a group of men who are attracted to women who wear niqab. They, even if they don't say it to you, they exist, right? It's a group of men like that. They're a group of men who are, some things attract certain people, whether people say it or not, because you don't see people saying that you look like this and that, it doesn't mean there's not people who exist. And the same thing for the men. The same thing goes for men. Just because people don't give us compliments doesn't mean that the trait or the characteristic doesn't exist in the person. I only use the example for the sisters because sometimes that can lead to further extremes. That can lead to further extremes where a woman doesn't feel like she's getting enough attention. The only problem, sis, is that the attention that a woman gets by uncovering, in most cases, is not the attention that she really wanted. You're definitely going to get attention because men are men and women are women. It's a male and female thing. So it's going to be attention regardless. But are you looking for that type of attention? Because that type of attention is going to be a negative type of attention. That's not the attention more than likely that you were looking for. All right? So we got to be careful. He says that don't think that people don't notice those qualities that people have. He says, and if a person began to, as he says, صار يعدد صفاته الحميدة أمام الناس سقطت عن أعينهم. If a person was to start just running off all their good qualities, how you feel about a person who just start telling you all the good stuff about themselves? Huh? Yeah. Now, right? You start getting lower and lower as people looking at you. Well, I thought you was this. Nah, he on something else. That's something else. So now you start losing the respect. You start losing the respect based on you because you feel like nobody's noticing you. So now you feel like you got to come out and tell somebody all the good stuff you do. And when you do that, brothers and men and women, a person begins to lose the respect for the person that they, unless it's a reason for mentioning it. طيب. He says after that, والبغي, that Ahl Sunnah, they warn each other from al-baghyu, which is al-udwan, al-ghayr, to transgress or to violate, as we say, another person, And how do we know we're violating somebody? Where's the violation come in? You violate somebody regarding what?
His rights.
What rights? It's a lot of rights. No doubt, the rights, no doubt. You violate somebody regarding their rights. What specifically? Huh? Not returning the salams. Tayyib. It's honor. Tayyib. Boy, I'm sorry. What does that mean, though? It's honor. How do you violate a person's honor?
Talking about him.
Talking about a person, backbiting them,
Tail carrying, slandering him.
slander. What's tail carrying? Hold up. What's tail carrying? You said it, but I want to see who owns it. What's tail carrying? He said that's the old school. You don't know? Hold. Time out. Hold up. Do you know what tail carrying is? You don't understand that term. All right. Anybody else not understand tail carrying? Hold up. You understand tail carrying? You understand tail carrying? I don't want to know do you understand it?
Saying something that was already spoken about, you carried it on, you just keep repeating.
Gossip, right? Gossip. You know gossip, right? He said that's an old school term. Gossip. Tell you, Allahu Akbar. That's what I'm saying. Tell you, all that's affect a person's honor. Well, what's another name for honor? Integrity. Huh? Respect. You say you can't tarnish a person's honor or reputation
Assassinate his character.
or assassinate the character. That's what you used to say. You assassinate my character talking about me like that, man. That's disrespectful, yeah. You assassinate my character. Or you destroy a person's reputation, right? That's a violation. Destroying a person's reputation is a violation in Islam. We are not allowed as Muslims to go around and just destroy each other's reputations, what people know you for. People know you for something, and you just go around destroying a person's reputation, right? With any of those things, whether it's backbiting, slandering them, gossiping about them, all of that tarnishes and destroys a person's reputation. Good. Violating when it comes to physical, putting your hands on somebody, right? The extreme of that is, no, the extreme is murder. Murder is the extreme of violation when it comes to physical, and everything under that, whether it is, as we say, what do we mean by bloodshed? Shed the blood. Not necessarily murder. You hurt a person and you cut them to some point that they're bleeding. They don't have to kill them. The fact that you physically harmed them and it caused blood to spill, right? So murder is the extreme, and anything under that, huh? Multiple people what? Not necessarily. A person might say, man, he shed my blood. I know people don't. Some people. People ain't talking like that. You never know. People be talking about a book, man. So I'm just trying to figure. People might use the book terms, man. They shed the blood. You can't. All right, you can't shed the blood of a Muslim. All right. All right. Cool. So what do that mean? You can't spill the blood of a. If you shed the blood, you can't harm them. You can't do anything to make cause a Muslim to bleed. Right? You can't do anything that will cause a Muslim to bleed. Right? We don't have that authority. Tayyib, we going backwards then. That's cool. And the last one, I think you said the last one. You violate somebody in their property, right? And that's based on the hadith. That the Prophet ﷺ said, "In dima'akum wa amwalakum wa a'radakum haram, alaykum haram." That your blood, your money, or your property, or your wealth, and your reputation are haram. It's sacred. You can't go around touching and tarnishing anybody's stuff without right.
What about lending money?
Huh?
Lending money.
Lending money is not the same as taking money. Lending money is lending. That them people agree. Two parties agree. There's a lender. He agrees to lend the person money, and the person is a borrower. That's fine. But you can't go take nobody money. I asked somebody to borrow some money. They didn't give me the money I asked to borrow, so I'm just gonna take it. Like, that's a violation, right? That's dhulm. Tayyib. So he said, based on that hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tayyib, he says, when it comes to a person's reputation, he says, يتحمل أن يراد بها الأعراض يعني السمعة. A sum'ah, which is basically a person's reputation. And then they go and they do the things that was just mentioned, that a person goes and they start backbiting them and spreading things about them. Or he says that a person's reputation could be يتحمل أن يراد بها الزنا وما دونه. Or that a person destroys a person's reputation by, and this is dangerous, when it comes to zina, fornication, which is, what is fornication? Even though we see the word in the books.
Having sex without being married.
Having sex outside of marriage. Having sex and a person's not married in Islam is considered to be fornication, which destroys a person's reputation. If we don't know that, and it might seem lopsided, but sisters could chime in. If we don't know that, any person, any man that hears a certain thing about a woman, it destroys her reputation and it removes her into another category to men. And that's why it's dangerous in Islam to consider and to call somebody a fornicator, especially when it comes to a husband and wife. That's super dangerous. When it comes to husband and wife, that's super serious. And even if it's not a husband and wife, accusing a person of zina is big in Islam. It's not something small. Even though we might do it all the time and people might do it all the time, that's a serious crime.
The story of Maryam. He said that she was a fornicator.
The story of Maryam, yeah.
Allah protected her honor.
No doubt, no doubt. So either way, zina, the fact that a person has sex outside of marriage, it tarnishes the reputation. It destroys a person's reputation. And we probably need to do something specifically on that, realistically, so that we understand what it means when a person fornicates, when a person has sex. What does it do to the community? Like, what does it do to, as a whole, what happens? What happens in the community as a whole? Yes, I'm sorry.
Years ago, there was a sister, she was involved with a brother, years ago, and she spent the last year, that the brother, she caught something on the dog. Her medication was gone, down.
She's spreading the mad shit, what?
No, she spread the rumor in the last year that she caught something
Oh.
on the brother.
She spread a rumor that,
She told some of the sisters went, they didn't stop the rumor, got into the medication.
we gotta be careful, man, destroying people's honor.
And it ruined her medication.
We got to be careful because you know how it is. We could say it or whatever we want. Some things that hit the air, some things that go out, is no pulling them back. Some stuff, once it get out there, once you say that and put that out in public, it's difficult. You can't just pull that back. That's going to be stick, whether it's true or not. That's going to stick on a person's reputation forever. And now you got to go to the grave that you destroyed a person's reputation and you didn't even know if it was true. And if it was true, was it for you? Was it for you to make it public? We got to be careful. We have to be careful. Yeah, Allah protect us. I mean. طيب. He says the fourth thing, وكذلك الاستطالة على الخلق الاستعلاء عليهم بحق أو بغير حق. And this is kind of related to the same thing, that a person considers themselves better than other people, whether they have the right to feel like that or they don't. That we never exert that on people and let people know that, yo, you're under me, I'm above you, you're not this and I'm this. We never, that's not from the adab of a Muslim, man or woman. Man or woman. Of course, y'all, there's always times, there's an exception where, we're not talking about the exception. We're talking about the rule. We're not talking about the exception. The rule is that we don't go around telling everybody that we're better than them. The rule is that the Muslim is a humble person. They don't have to show everybody that they're better than them. They don't have to mention all of their good qualities. That even if they're not mentioned, that the people know what they are, right? Of course, and then there's a time where there may be a need to mention a good quality. It's a time where it may be a need to say something negative about somebody. Those are the exceptions, but we're not living by the exceptions. طيب. He says, وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِمَعَالِي الْأَخْلَاقِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِمَعَالِي الْأَخْلَاقِ is that they tell each other, they advise each other, and they command each other to have the best and the highest form and the best manners. The best. This is Ahl Sunnah. This is not Ahl Bid'ah. This is not all of the terms and these names that everybody be calling each other. Don't know how to say them in Arabic. It's just names in Arabic that people put on each other, all these labels. Ahl Sunnah are supposed to be people who have good behavior. It's real simple. Ahl Sunnah with Jama'ah supposed to have good behavior, good manners. Men, women, adults, children. The people who say they follow the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's real simple and basic. We can complicated things, and we have made it seem like if you don't know these terms that I'm about to say, then you're outside of Ahl Sunnah. It's overcomplicating stuff. And it's real simple. The Muslim is supposed to be a person who has good behavior. Right? In order for us to come off of that, we need something from Islam to tell us, okay, we don't need to have good behavior. We need to find the ayat. Where's the verse in the Quran? Where's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ? Where is it that we can say, okay, we don't have to have good behavior? Where's the exception for that? Right? So now the question is, what are some examples, right, of good manners and good character. And he has some examples right here, but I'm not going to read them. I just want to hear. Huh?
Being kind to your neighbor.
Tell you, being kind to your neighbor, Jade. Smiling.
Having the best character.
Yeah, smiling. No doubt, smiling.
Having the best
Huh?
character.
Giving salams to the Muslim, whether you know him or you don't know him. Because some of us, we restrict the salams. Some of us only give salams to the people who look like us. They dress like us, right? They pray where we pray at, right? Or they know the terms that we know, the same terms, so they say the same terms that we say. And if they don't know the terms that we know, then they must not really be following the sunnah. You don't know what that? You don't know what rububiyah is? So since you don't know what rububiyah is, you must be on something else because you don't know what rububiyah is, which is a mistake, y'all. We using terms to gauge a people's deen. So if a person doesn't know the terminologies that we use, they don't know, like, what does that equal? Because we've made an assumption. If you don't know this term, you must not know this. We've made an assumption. This equals that, which is not necessarily true. Tell you what else?
Being kind to your family.
Being kind to your family.
Muslim or non-Muslim.
Muslim or non-Muslim. Okay. What else? Giving charity. We know charity, right? What's charity? What's sadaqah? Sadaqah is Arabic for charity, Sheikh. What's charity? Huh?
Charity's just giving us
Zakat. What's, huh?
charity's just having a smile. I mean,
No, we talking, what type of charity you talking about?
Also, like food and money,
So what do you mean?
like giving what you have to, those who may need it.
Tell you, I just want you to simplify, man. Giving what you have to those who may need it.
having poor,
Huh? Helping others.
giving to those who beg.
Giving to people,
Giving to people who beg.
people who might be begging and need it. Giving what you have to those who need it, right? You giving people, you giving it to them free. It's a give. You're giving it to them. They need it. You have it to give. You give it to them. You don't need nothing back. You're not looking for anything in return. You're not looking for them to give you anything back. You're not giving it to them because you want them to stay away from you from this day on. Like, yo, I'm going to give you this, but don't come back past here. That's not, right? Allah Mustaan. Tayyib, what else?
Having the best character in the workplace.
Having good character in your workplace. That's good. Jade. Having good character wherever you work at, that you display the character of a Muslim when you go to work. MashaAllah, that's good. You got one? Huh? Giving money to the masjid, supporting the masajid. Jade. He says here, a sidq, being truthful. All right? To be truthful. That's the example you use. Kasidq, being truthful. We did that this morning. A sidq. It's truthful. Being truthful. What is truthful? The Muslim doesn't what?
Lie.
The Muslims don't lie, y'all. Muslims are not supposed to be liars. The Muslim is not supposed to lie. We're not talking about no white lies, no black lies. We're talking about lying. The Muslim is supposed to be a truthful Muslim man, a truthful Muslim woman. You're supposed to say what's true. You're not supposed to be lying. We do know lying is a sin, right? Kadhib, it's haram, it's a sin. To lie is a sin. We're not talking about no exceptions. Don't look up, Sheikh. You raising. Oh, I thought you about. Right. A person, Muslim, not supposed to lie. That was the characteristic of the shaitan, right? Was that the hadith about the shaitan? You said he's what?
Showed he lied, but he told the truth.
Oh, I thought you were talking about that. I thought you were talking about the other one, the hadith of Ayatul Kursi. Yeah, Ayatul Kursi. Tayyib, he says, well, afaf, to be, they say chase, guard your chastity. Is that understood?
Take your private parts?
No. Oh, what, chastity is not, okay, what about protect your private parts?
Yeah. Well, if it's
Now, we are, now, if you're talking to somebody who don't know these books that we read, let's just say they're not even Muslim, or they're a new Muslim, and you tell them Do you tell me you have to protect your private parts?
Don't have, yeah, you can't
Just-
have sexual relations.
No. That's different. Now, if you explain it, that's different. But I'm just saying, leave it as protect your private parts.
They ain't gonna know what that means.
They're not going to know what that means, right? So you got to explain it to them and say,
They gonna think it means just to be covered.
I don't know what they're going to understand. It's understood between us because we used to reading that type of terms in books to guard your private area. But if you're talking to a person who's not used to that terminology, we need to explain to them what guard your private part mean. Like guard your private parts. What does that?
That's like just saying, guard your tongue.
Yeah, guard your tongue. Like what does that mean? Well, there you go. It's better to say that than to leave a person possibly not knowing what you was trying to tell them. Or assume something that you wasn't trying to, that's not what you were trying to say, right? So, what would you say guard your private parts mean?
To protect your private by abstaining from.
Come on, man.
Legal sexual.
Oh, no, man, no. What is,
You're like, what's illegal?
all you want is a simple, yeah.
To avoid at all costs
Sexual relations.
having sexual relations with those outside of
Man, no sex before marriage.
Yeah.
No sex before marriage. Muslims are not people who go around having sex and we not married. No hugging, no touching. I don't know if sisters understand this, or brothers. We're Muslims. We're not supposed to just be hugging random women. Right? Everybody, we human. I'm not going in all that. I'm just saying. You're not supposed to be hugging. Sis, you're not supposed to just be hugging random people because y'all been working together for a long time. That's not like, you know what I'm saying? Some sisters say, like, people think, and brothers, they think that we've been working together so long. No, it ain't like that. No, it is like that. It's always, sisters don't understand. It's always like that for men. It's always like that. Am I right, brothers? Huh? It's always like that for men. It's always like, I don't know what sisters think. They might not know, but no. Number one, Islamically, that's why we have things in line to keep us from going down the wrong road towards zina. Allah said, well, I talk about zina. Don't even go close to zina. Not don't do zina. Don't go close to fornicating. When there's things that lead up to that. Being alone in the room with people, it's only y'all two, hugging, flirting, and things move from one thing to the next. And you think because y'all been cool and y'all been working together so long that y'all can give hugs and no. You got to keep your guard up. The brothers and sisters, you got to keep your guard up because and say we always waiting for a chink in the armor. If that door open up, it's always, huh? Even when you're married. Once you get married, it's the same thing. Once you get married, there's no hugging, you hugging this one and he hugging this one. Nah, that stuff leads somewhere else.
From the hadith of the Prophet
Sorry,
sallallahu
sorry.
more beloved to me that a screw be driven through my head before I touch a woman is not from the mahram.
Oh man, mahram.
That's deep.
Yeah, that's deep. It's more, what's the hadith? We're not getting into the mahram. We got to get into the mahram, but
It's more
let me see how much time we got on the mahram.
It's nail driven through
It's
my
more
head.
beloved than a nail be driven through my head for me to touch a woman who's not from my family. Because the women that are from my family, that's one thing. Women outside of the family, and sisters, the brothers outside of your family, right? The men outside of your family, this is real general, right? It's specifics to it. That means generally we can marry them. The people that you can marry, brothers, sisters, the people, the women that you're allowed to marry, sisters, the brothers that you can marry, he ain't my type. We're not talking about if you're type or not. Don't make it say difference if you're type or not. No, she ain't really my speed. That makes no difference. Deen-wise, if you wanted to, you can marry her. They're not open to be hugging and riding around and just kicking it. We're going to go to lunch together. No, it's not open like that. And those things lead somewhere else. And that's why we close off all of those avenues. We close off any possibility. Any possibility is supposed to be closed off. Now, we live in a city. We live in a place where, okay, you knew people growing up. So, yeah, they might run up to you and they might hug you. All right, but at some point, you got to let them know. At some point, I say, listen, man, I know you don't mean no disrespect, right? Because they might not be trying to be disrespectful, but at some point, you got to know, especially because this is an issue. Sisters get married, brothers get married, and they have what they call friends. They have friends. He has, I don't know about the man, he says he has friends, and they're women, right? Before he married now, and she had friends who were men, and now she's married. So how that's supposed to work when you get married? She's supposed to continue to have male friends, like Islam don't, and the man, your husband, is supposed to continue to have female friends after y'all get married? When you're not supposed to have them before we get married? Like, what you doing with your male friends? And what are you going to do? What is the brother going to do with his female friends? That's a whole problem in itself. So that guarding the private part, or that guarding yourself, is not just intercourse, sex before marriage. Anything that's going to lead up, that could possibly lead up to you making a mistake. Right? All of those things are from the Muslims having good character. Yes.
Even the cousin thing, like how you deal with that cousin thing, that's a big thing too.
Sheikh, that's a whole joint.
That's a class.
That's a whole class. The cousin about the one thing is general.
Is it all right for she can hug her brother or her father?
No doubt. No doubt. But there are people, there are people who are not the cousin and things like that. There are restrictions, right? Which a lot of times, for real, even amongst us it's a discussion, and amongst our families. It needs to be a discussion so that people don't get the wrong impression of Islam. Sometimes we just do stuff sporadic. We don't have no explanation, and we don't know how to explain it. We can't explain it. And sometimes that doesn't do good as far as dawah-wise to like people who are not Muslim and family members and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Yes.
That hadith is in Tabarani.
Tabarani? What's the hadith?
About the nail being driven through the head.
About the nail being driven through the head before you touch a woman that's not a mahram. Sisters, I wish the mic was back there so we can know what a mahram is. We need to know what you going to give it to them? I don't know if they want to answer. We need to all know what a mahram is.
You're going to slide the mic and be like dynamite.
We need to know what a mahram is, man, because it's a big misconception of what a mahram is and when is a mahram needed. And that's the problem. The problem is I don't be trying to be funny. We using terms, and we can all sit in here and have a different understanding of what the term means. Sisters, if there's any sisters over there, can somebody tell us what a mahram is, in your opinion? There's no wrong answer. This is not a right or wrong answer. The same thing we do on this side. We need to see if it's 8 people in the room and we ask what the definition is, we might get 8 different answers. Oh, nobody gonna grab the mic back there? We heard y'all over there. Tell y'all, we trying to get to the bottom of this. This is a serious business. A mahram. When is a mahram? What is a mahram? When is a mahram needed? Right? Who is a mahram for a woman? Who's not a mahram for her? This is important. This is important. This affects your life, how you're going to live your life day to day.
Wouldn't it be considered like a male family member?
A mahram.
Like your wali or your wakil?
Okay, a male family member.
Person that you can't marry?
A person that you can't marry. Okay, Jade. A mahram for a woman is a man that she can't marry. Those family members, her brother, father, uncles, right? Them people she can't marry. Next question. When is a mahram needed? When does a woman need a mahram? This for the sisters. I need to know the sisters.
When you traveling.
Jade, when you're traveling. Okay. What's traveling? For the sisters. When is a person that's considered to be a traveler?
When you traveling outside of your home state.
When you travel outside of?
The country. Oh.
Come closer. Not the country. That is traveling, but it's less than that. It's closer. You don't have to go outside the country to be a traveler.
50 miles outside of your city.
Okay, 50 miles outside somebody, mashallah. Humbly. 50 miles outside of your residence. Tayyib. So now, this is the next question, sisters. If a sister lives, it's a question? Outside of your home, subhanAllah. So you're traveling when you go outside the house. In Islam, that's not a traveler, sisters. You're not traveling because you leave the house. And that's the misconception a lot of sisters have in Philadelphia. I don't know about anywhere else. Some sisters think when they come outside, they traveling. So if she lives in South Philly, she considers herself traveling to North Philly. So she can't go to North Philly because she needs a mahram to travel with her. And that's not what a mahram is in Islam. That's not traveling. You're not a traveler within your residential city. Right? The term is not used like that. A safar. Safar is not used like that Islamically. You're not traveling when you're moving from North Philly to South Philly to Mount Airy to West Philly to Germantown. That's not a travel Islamically where a lot of rules come with traveling. You shorten the salat, you can combine the salat, you can break the fast if it's Ramadan with no sin, you got to make the day up, right? You're going to need a mahram, you can't, that's not a traveler. And a lot of sisters had an idea that when they leave out the house and they're in the city that they traveling, and that's not a traveler. Yeah, the brothers. And the brothers, yeah, on top of that, it's brothers that's holding them to that. So the brothers are holding them to when they leave out of the house, they need a mahram because you're traveling. And that's not traveling. Now, it's one thing if you want to say you prefer that your wife you prefer that your wife, you feel comfortable with your wife moving around and she has somebody with her. That's one thing. But to label her a traveler, no, that's incorrect. That's not correct. All right? Yeah, that's traveling. Out the country is definitely traveling, right? But on a smaller scale, she going to New York. New York is traveling in Islam. Therefore, you're supposed to have a mahram when you go to New York. You're not supposed to go to New York. You're supposed to travel to mahram, right? Not within your, yes, I'm sorry.
Isn't it a bit extreme to have somebody travel with you to Jersey?
I can't hear you. Say it again.
Isn't it a bit extreme to have somebody travel with you to Jersey or Delaware?
I wouldn't say extreme because it depends on what part of Jersey you're talking about. The dhabit is, how do you keep it consistent? The consistency is when you're talking about 50 miles and above. 50 miles and above Islamically puts you in the traveler's category once you pass 50 miles, right? If you're below that, you're not a traveler. So, for example, Cherry Hill, right? If you're using that 50-mile, Cherry Hill is not traveling, right? So is that extreme? We're going to say people extreme, right? Or Camden. Camden is not that far. That's Jersey. But if you're talking about Newark, you're talking about North Jersey now. You're talking about almost at New York. That's a different travel. That's a different distance. So it has to be based on what Islam laid down as the distance, not as what we consider with the English word travel, okay? Tayyib. All of these are the characteristics that he mentioned to be good. That was all under guarding your private parts and being chaste or chastity. And he says, Adal amana, and fulfilling your trust. When you trusted to do something, that a person fulfills the trust. That a person doesn't betray the trust that a person gives them. He said, and they tell each other, they warn each other against the opposite. When yanhuna an safsafiha, they warn each other and we advise each other to stay away from those low, what's the word for? What's the word for like bad? I guess bad. No, bad manners. Bad adab, bad manners, bad behavior. We're supposed to warn each other against that and advise each other against that. Like, don't do that. You're not supposed to be doing that. We're Muslim. We're Muslim. We're not supposed to do what? He got some examples here. Huh? Lie. We're Muslim. We're not supposed to be lying. Backbiting still. What else? Cheating people. We're not talking about husband and wife cheating. Of course, that's haram too. We're talking about cheating as far as getting over on people in deals and business and stuff like that. That's cheating people. We're not supposed to be cheating people out of money, cheating people out of product, cheating people out of this. We're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be upright citizens, right? The Muslims change the society. That's what we're supposed to. They're supposed to change the society. I'm sorry, what you saying? What else? Huh? Profanity. We got to bring the hadith on that. Hopefully we can do something dealing with profanity. He brings one here. He says, well, khiyana. Khiyana is deception. Deceiving people. What is deceiving? Goes with what? Yeah, with cheating people. What is deception? What does it mean to deceive somebody? What's another word for deceive? Trick. How do you trick somebody? What are you tricking people with? You show them one thing, and it's really something else. You setting people up for something, huh? You telling somebody you putting on this front, right? You frauding, as we say. You selling something. You selling something and it doesn't work, right? People sell themselves too on the internet. On the internet, people selling themselves, right? People sell themselves on the internet. So they put something up, to show one thing, and then when you meet them or when it really, that's not what the case was. Selling something that's overpriced, knowing that it's not worth what you're selling it for. And that's different. We're not talking about the exception, y'all, because this is, what if you ain't know? We're not talking about if you didn't know. We're talking about people who know. You know it's not worth that, and you sell it, and it has a problem, and you don't mention the problem to the person, and you sell it to them at full price. Instead of mentioning, listen, this is the problem with it, so I'm going to give it to you for this. You know it's going to take off the money you're going to make, but the Muslim is honest. The Muslim is truthful. And you're only going to get what Allah going to give you. Anyway. Right? Al-khiyana. Al-khiyana has to do with, deception has to do with a lot of things. And we living in a time where it's deceptive in the way people look. Right? The makeup. They got them, the brother was talking about a couple of weeks ago, the bodysuits and all that kind of stuff. They got the toupees. We used to call them toupees. They got the joints for men. If you going bald, you get one of them fake joints with the waves on it. All that's deception, right? It's deception. You imagine a person, just imagine a person, man and woman, they choose a spouse based on that look, based on whatever it was that wasn't really theirs, right? They marry him. They have a whole marriage ceremony, all that family involved and all that. Come to find out that that's not really what it was. That's deception. That's trickery. You tricked the person to think that you were something you're not. No doubt.
That well-known hadith that the Prophet said, those that deceive us is not from us.
من غشنا فليس منا عليه الصلاة والسلام وكما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Whoever tricks us or deceives us or cheats us is not from us. That's a big hadith in Saudi. That's a huge hadith in Saudi. Whoever cheats us and deceives us is not from us. It's not from our way. من غشنا فليس منا. Whoever cheats us and deceives us is not from us. We got to be careful tricking people and deceiving people to thinking one thing, knowing that we're giving off that. That's what we doing it. Not that you wasn't trying to do it. No, you're trying to do it. You know that's what you're doing, and you're getting the result that you want. Right? The Muslim is not supposed to do that. That's khiyana, it's deception. In no way, shape, or form. You sit there and you tell people one thing, you know that what the result is going to get. Right? All that's a part of deception. May Allah forgive us and protect us. I mean. طيب. He says, in the statement, he says, in everything, وَكُلُّ مَا يَفْعَلُونَهُ وَيَفْعَلُونَ مِنْ هَذَا وَغَيْرِهِ فإنما هم فيه متبعون للكتاب والسنة وطريقتهم هي الدين الإسلام الذي بعث الله به محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said everything that they say, who's the they? Ahl Sunnah, the people of the Sunnah. Everything that they say and everything that they do from everything that just preceded, meaning the adab, at least the adab and everything. He said all of this, they do it. And when they do it, they're following the book and the sunnah. They're following the Quran and the sunnah when they do it. We're not following the problem we have now. We're not following people. We're not following individual people. People are humans and humans make mistakes. We follow revelation, the Quran and the sunnah. This is the unrestricted following. Meaning the what we follow with no hesitation is the Quran and the Sunnah. When it comes to people, do we follow people realistically? Everybody follows people. We do follow people. But the following those people has limits. I don't know about that. I thought we wasn't supposed to do that. No, you could do it. I don't know about that. That's great for me. I'm kind of shaky. You don't have to follow people unrestrictedly with no limits. Right? There are limits on following people. Right? Our unrestricted followings for the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, in their way is the way of the Deen of Islam, which was the Deen that Allah Jalla wa Ala sent the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with. That Deen is the Deen that we follow, right? That's what we're bound to, and that's what we're restricted to. Anything outside of that, we don't have to follow it. We're not obligated to follow anything that goes outside of the revelation. Tayyib. Shaykh Uthaymeen says, meaning when we do our worship, anything we do, we should feel it. Yo, I'm doing this according to the sunnah. I'm doing this because we're not supposed to do this as Muslims. I'm following the revelation in this. I'm going to be truthful. I ain't going to lie. I could lie right now and get over. I could. And that might get me like 10 stacks. I could do that. And nobody know. But we Muslim. And Allah knows. Right? Especially, y'all. Especially when it comes to them sit-downs and stuff. Especially when it comes to sit-downs. I mean, you just got to be honest. It's better to be honest. It's better to be honest than for a person. You trick a person and then they find out from a third party that you was frauding. Then when they call it off, everybody don't know, oh, man, I don't know what happened. You just called it off. Well, came back that you weren't being honest. Right? Who wants to marry a person that they can't even be honest initially? We don't have no ties right now. We have no obligation toward each other. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. And you lying. Right? What's going to happen later on when there's actually stuff on the table? We got obligation towards each other, and you got to do things I have to do. What's going to happen then? You see what I'm saying? So we need to be careful and make sure we're being Muslim all the time, not just when it's convenient for us. And we'll stop there, inshallah, because the next section is related back to the Aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah. And this is actually a hadith that a lot of people know. We hope somebody can explain it with a thorough explanation. And this is, he says, لما أخبر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن أمته ستفترق على 73 فرقة كلها في النار إلا واحدة وهي الجماعة. Hopefully, the hadith that Prophet ﷺ said that this ummah will split into 73 sects, right? 73 groups. The Muslims will split up. It'll be 73 groups. All of those groups will be in the hellfire except for one group, and that group is the Jama'ah. That group is the Jama'ah. And that hadith needs a whole explanation by itself. And this is not the class for that. Well, that's a lot, Sheikh. Honestly, man. It's another hadith. It says, وفي حديث عنه أنه قال هم من كان على مثل ما أنا عليه اليوم وأصحابي. They said, well, who's the Jama'ah? Who's the Jama'ah? They are those who are on what I am on and what today what my companions are on. Right? Right? It says, صار متمسكين بالإسلام المحض الخالص عن الشو. We need to, that needs a whole explanation by itself. Because if you leave it like that, if it's just like that, whoever follows the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and what the Sahaba were practicing, Ahl Sunnah. Now the next thing is, because now you got a bunch of, well, wait a minute. What about the person who doesn't know the terms that we use? What if a person doesn't know the terms that we use? Right? Any term, not just Salafi, any terminology that we use. Because I heard a brother told me one time he was going to marry somebody, but she didn't know. The sister he was sitting down, she didn't know like some terms. So the fact that she didn't know some terms, he said, man, I can't, you know what I mean, I'm cool. He stepped back because she didn't know terms from like Tawheed or Rububiyyah. She didn't know the linguistic, what does that mean? She didn't understand what that meant. The term itself. Not that she didn't know what Tawheed Rububiyyah was. Not that she didn't know what it was and that she implements it as a Muslim. Not that she wasn't practicing it. She didn't know the terminology. So to him, that was a term, no, I can't even deal with that. I'm cool. Right? What happens when you have people who don't know the terms that we're used to hearing, but they're doing everything that the Prophet ﷺ and Sahaba want? You see what I'm saying? You see the problem? We regulated it. We restricted it to people who sound like us and say what we say. And if you don't say what we say the way we say it, then you must not be from who we say we are, which is dangerous. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. All right? And all of that takes that's detailed talk. That's not a quick run through. Right? Because everybody loves the Quran and Sunnah. Quran, okay. Yeah, Quran and Sunnah like the Sahaba. Yeah, like the Sahaba. Okay. Regarding what? Because the Sahaba didn't agree on everything. The Sahaba different in some areas. They different in some things. So we just, all that's general. Okay, everybody says that. So now how we get to distinguish, right, who is following the Jama'ah and who's not following the Jama'ah? what was based on what? Right? You got to, now we need details. Right? Some stuff is general, but now we need details. Right? And most of the time, we're not hearing no details from each other. We just hearing people not doing this, they not on it. Why not? Because he cool with Muhammad. Him and Muhammad cool, so, you know. So what does that mean? It's been minimized so much that all you have to do is say a person's name and a person will consider that person, they're not practicing Islam correctly. Or a person goes to that masjid, they don't practice. Where you pray at? Such and such. Or he's not practicing Islam correctly. No text, no detail, no anything. Which is dangerous. It's dangerous. Loose lips for sure. We salam to the cat.
And it's following off with somebody else. Like that tell cat. Like so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said this. You get a person that's new to the deen, trying to learn,
right,
eager to learn, and they lose that fire.
They lose that fire. That's no doubt.
One thing.
No doubt. We got to be careful. We don't want to be the pro. We don't want to be the people. We don't want to be the person who drives a person away from deen, away from Islam. A lot of people just talking, and everybody has to stand. It's angels. We all have angels. That's from our Aqidah. We have angels who are writing. We have a book. Everything is written down. Nothing goes by, just they miss it. It don't work like that. Everybody has angels. Whether you praying here or wherever you praying, in this city or outside of this city, whoever your imam and your sheikh is, your sheikh has angels, you have angels, all of the kids and everybody, the adults have angels. The people you talking about, they have angels just like you have angels. Everybody's going to be held accountable on Yom Kippur for what we say and what we did. Right? A lot of people don't have any details. They just saying what somebody else said. And if you get a they don't have details, which is dangerous. As Muslims, we don't have to do that. Everybody's not charged with their obligation. Some people may be, but that's not everybody. So that hadith needs a lot of explanation. We can't do that today. And I would prefer somebody else did that more qualified than myself. But if not, we'll stop there, inshallah, if there's no questions. It's only a little bit long. طيب, we'll stop there, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.